I really believe that LinkedIn is my money tree, and those pitches are weeds. If they're not going to stop, no matter what's on your profile, they're not going to stop. You need to ignore them. You need to like not like don't let your money tree die because of the weeds. Like pull the weeds, get rid of them, delete them, and just focus on the opportunity.
You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 474. And today, I've brought the icon herself to talk about how to build thought leadership brands and generational wealth leveraging LinkedIn. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson, Authority Amplifier and founder of the Rising Tide Collective. And today I'm excited to introduce, and maybe you've already met her, an icon in the LinkedIn world. I've been wanting to talk more about LinkedIn because I really feel like LinkedIn is such a powerful but misunderstood social platform. And there is a lot of amazing connections that can be built there. But if you don't know how to use it, you could be maybe making it worse or not really tapping into the diamonds that are available to you there. So our guest today drops some real gems about how to leverage LinkedIn for speaking, for connection building, for getting found. And one of the key things you're going to need to do before you can actually implement and deploy what you discover here today is you need to know, what do you want to be found for? What is it that is your expertise, your unique positioning, and your brand assets that can be amplified? When you learn how to do that as part of your unignorable framework, this makes creating content easier. It makes getting found easier. It makes collaborating easier. It kind of makes the whole machine work easier, which is why I love sharing this free tool with you. It's called the 7-Step Framework to Becoming Unignorable. And in this framework, I'm going to share with you my technique for positioning, for messaging, and for what you need to have in place so that you are the one that gets found. You are the one that comes up in search engines. You are the one that gets referred. And you are the one that gets the speaking gigs and chosen by those ideal clients. And if you are an established business owner, chances are you may have pivoted, you may have evolved, you may have really found that your niche evolves and moves over time. You've got to go back and revisit this, which is why I include a scorecard. So this tool is free. If you head over to melaniebenson.com/framework, I will also link this up in the show notes. You can download it as my gift to you. I highly recommend reviewing it once a quarter, once every 6 months at the longest, to make sure that you really continue to be the one that is recognized and chosen. Now, let's get into today's guest. Welcome back, Amplifiers. I'm excited to bring you our special guest today. We're going to talk about how to go from invisible to iconic with LinkedIn. And I am so excited to introduce our special guest. Let me give her her official introduction. Please meet Karen Yankovich. She's the CEO of Uplevel Media and host of the Good Girls Get Rich podcast, where she teaches ambitious women how to turn their brilliance into bank through the power of LinkedIn and PR. And as I was reading all of the amazing things about her, one of the things that I love, Karen, that you say is that you believe visibility is an act of service and that every woman deserves to be known, valued, and richly compensated for the work that she loves and does. And I just love that about you so much. I think you and I share that value. So welcome to the
Yeah.
show.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it is. I don't know, for whatever reason, we don't need to get into the history of the world, but for whatever reason, it doesn't necessarily come naturally to women. And people like you and me, reminding people to do this and to lean into their genius so that they're able to help more people, which is really what what we want to do, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's a whole episode on why women in
Yeah.
particular oftentimes step out of the visibility sphere, but that's
Yep.
a whole nother conversation, right?
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about how to step into that visibility. And one of the things that I love also that you talk about is that visibility is the new currency for women who are leading. Tell me more about
Yeah.
that. Let's kind of set some context for that. And in
Yeah.
particular, let's get into like how LinkedIn and PR can help women start to build wealth through their visibility.
Yeah. So, I think, listen, we live in a really noisy world right now, right? And I think the pandemic made it worse. Like it just when everything went virtual, the online world I just got so loud that nobody was hearing anybody. And all the things that we did before that stopped working because the noise was so loud. So, if you look into me from 5 or 10 years ago, you're not going to see the PR piece attached as much. But what I found is that we have to stand out in order to not be invisible. And that's something we can create, right? As much as I'd like to think Oprah's going to come knocking on my door in the middle of this interview and invite me to tea, it's probably not going to happen, right? I have to go after those kinds of opportunities, and so do you. And yes, there's a way to create magnetism there, right? Like a lot of the work that I do is about how do we make this magnetic. But it doesn't mean you're sitting on the beach and waiting for people to come to you. There's still things that you need to do to create this magnetic effect to have that visibility. If we're not doing that, then, and I know because I've seen it, and I bet you have too. Some of the most brilliant women in the world that are so good at what they do are just not succeeding. And they're going back to jobs at Macy's because they can't figure out how to do this stuff and get richly compensated for it. So we are stuck with the people that are really good at promoting themselves, but maybe not really good at the actual job, right? So I want women that are good at the actual job to learn how to promote themselves so that we all get to experience that their brilliance.
Mhm. I love this so much. And this was a huge growing edge for me early on in my career. Probably around 2002, 2003, I had a conversation with a very, very well-known, very high-profile male coach who we were unpacking this. Like, why is it that some of the best people are so invisible? And it's almost like that muscle of being seen
Hmm.
escapes them, but yet the people who maybe aren't so good at delivering quality work are really good at marketing and sales and being seen.
Right.
And it's almost like it's this is converse maybe the right word is like reverse, but it's an interesting phenomenon. I'm fascinated by it. Maybe
It
it's the muscle
is.
that we build, right?
Well, and it is. And most people are good at what they're good at, right? But if you
Mhm.
don't get good at marketing yourself in some way, shape, or form, then you're not, it's going to be a lot harder for you to have the impact on the world. And most of the women that I work with, yes. I mean, I have to sometimes remind them that we're here for the money. Like sometimes I have to remind them about that. And
Yeah.
yes, we want more money because they've got these big impact goals. I really want to do this. I really want to serve this. There's too many starving children or dying animals or whatever, right? And I love that about women. But big goals need big money. And we have to remember that. And in order to do that, you have to look worthy of people's investment, right? You have to look worthy of people's investment. And I think about this even in like the nonprofit world. I'm thinking about a client that I had that, oh my gosh, the work that she does, she deserves to be paid more than anybody I know, like higher than anybody I know, higher than the highest paid athletes. Like she does this unbelievable work in this world that she can't really talk about. But she also like we had to fundraise to get her to be able to and then I gave her some big discounts and get her to be able to even just work with me, right? And then but when she shifted that and she started owning and kind of putting out there her brilliance, like the contracts that she was getting were just I mean blew me away, right? So
Mhm.
it's about just that shift in perspective from if I'm not owning how good I am at this, how am I going to expect anybody to pay me well to do it? Right. And that's the piece that most women have the hardest, it's the hardest piece for most women to grasp and overcome, and they're like, oh, I feel like I'm bragging. Like, no, you did all these things. Like, you're just owning it, right? Like, that's the piece of it that my personal mission is to get more women to just own the kinds of brilliance that they have, so that they can bring in the kind of money they need so that they can fund their big goals.
Yeah. I was that girl. I was that woman who really couldn't, own her brilliance. And
Yeah.
until I did, I was invisible. And I think this is the
Yes.
epidemic is if we don't own it, no one else is going to own it for us. And
Right.
then we can't be seen. And if we can't be seen, we can't be hired and we can't make a greater impact.
Right. And this isn't a direction I normally take, so hopefully you're okay with this, Melanie. But I also think that we're not coming at it at an even playing field to begin with. Men have more opportunity. Men still make more money than women for the same jobs. Men, no, no, I'm not sitting here whining about that. I think that, to me, that's a big pot of money that's available to us, right? This pot of money, that the inequality in income. But just earlier today, and I'll say this, and I'll preface it by saying I didn't vet this. I didn't qualify this, but I was just reading an article this morning about a woman, and I can find it and link it here. A woman who did a test on LinkedIn, somebody who uses LinkedIn a lot, and she changed her sex from female to male on LinkedIn, and her views went up by 400%.
Hmm.
Like,
Fascinating.
it is fascinating. Right now, it's one statistic, it's one piece of thing. So there's other people out there that have a lot more deep dives into research. So I want to, this is just one little thing, but it kind of doesn't surprise me. It doesn't make me say I'm not going to do this anymore, but we, still in to this day, have to fight a little harder to get that same visibility, right? So I don't want us to work harder. I don't want us to fight harder. I want to make it simple. And to me, it always comes down to, do you look worthy of the people that you want, that you need to hang out with the kinds of people that can get you these big opportunities, and you have to make sure that you look worthy of being in that same room with them. And to me, that's at the heart of how we can do this. And I still think that matters, and I still think that's the way to do it. um, and it just is what it is. And I've been doing this a long time now, and I've seen a woman that'll bring me on in their group, and there'll be 50 people in the room, and then a man will bring me in their group, and there'll be 250 people in the room. So that is still a thing, right? Not whining about it, but we have to recognize it. And as women, if we want to overcome that, we have to recognize it and position ourselves so that we can get the big opportunities.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Let's talk a little bit about how LinkedIn plays into this, because obviously that's your domain. That's one of
Yep.
the platforms that you have really kind of. I don't know if you've figured it out. Can we figure out LinkedIn
No,
in depth? I don't
no.
know. Because as soon as we do, they change it, right? But
Exactly,
yeah, I
exactly.
want to hear through the lens of someone who's really been in LinkedIn, mastering it, leveraging it, teaching it. Like what can LinkedIn bring to us to help us activate this new currency of visibility?
Yeah. So, I've been around a while, and my background in sales predates social media, right? So my expertise has always been relationship marketing. Who do I need to know to get this deal? Who do I need to know? How do I put the right people in the room together? And what rooms do I need to be in? Right. And often almost always I was in male dominated industries. So as the only woman in the room, I really had to portray confidence even when it wasn't always there, right? I had to portray confidence. I had to make sure that there were times I had to run out of the room and look things up. I'm like, what did I just say I was going to do, right? But I knew what I knew, and I knew what I didn't know, right? But I had to go in there confidently. Um, so when online marketing became a thing, I naturally gravitated to LinkedIn, because to me, people want to know more about the people they do business with, right? So making sure, first and foremost, that you take advantage of that real estate and you show the world what you want them to know about you on LinkedIn. And then, who are the people I need to know? Like, it is that has not changed. If I ask 100 people, the biggest, most exciting deal you ever got, where did it come from? 99 of them are going to tell me a referral. Well, this person knew that person who said, call Karen, right? So referrals aren't necessarily repeatable, but they are if you continue to build out a really strong targeted referral network, right? So to me, that's where I felt like LinkedIn shined. And in the earlier days of this particular version of my business, I was doing more than LinkedIn, but I was always having people start on LinkedIn, where I started to get known as the person that needed help. In fact, the first time I was doing like a LinkedIn workshop, I didn't even have 500 LinkedIn connections. So I like went into this group that I was in and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to give you free LinkedIn profile reviews, but first you have to connect with me so I can see your profile." And got myself over 500 so that I could at least have that little bit of credibility that I was worthy of this conversation. I had the expertise, and this is important because a lot of women feel like they don't have the qualifications. Like I knew I had the expertise and the qualifications. I just didn't have a profile that showed that. Right. So I had to like do what I needed to do so that my profile, exhibited the somewhat level of expertise that I knew that I had in that market. Right. Um, so that's really why. And I think to this day, it is still the case. Right. Like I don't know. I'm not the person to come to if you want to monetize Instagram or have a low ticket offer. I don't know how to do that stuff. Right. But I know that everybody's got a high ticket offer in them. Whatever. I'm not talking about overcharging. I'm talking about build out a big, fat, juicy offer and then find a couple people on LinkedIn to talk about it. Like it could be as simple as that. And the big, fat, juicy offers often don't need sales pages and upsell pages and boost pages and thank you pages. Like you don't have to recreate 60,000 pages to sell one $50 thing, right? You just need to know you can accomplish what you can accomplish as, even if you just want to call it like a consulting type thing, and then create it and talk about it. Like that's all that you need to do this. And I know I make it sound so simple, but it can be that simple. And LinkedIn is where all this happens. LinkedIn is where all this happens. It's where these conversations are happening. It's where people have the money to hire you, and it's where people are looking for you.
Hmm. So I'm very intrigued because I think LinkedIn is one of those platforms that there's a particular way of being present on LinkedIn, how you build your profile, how you present your image, right? And it's not the same as the other social media profiles or platforms, I should say. And so I would love to dig in, if you're okay with this, just a little bit deeper
Yeah.
into how do we actually create a LinkedIn profile that will take us further than getting the 7 billion cold pitches from, Jane, Joe, Dick, Harry, who just want to sell us
Right.
whatever they've
Right.
got. Like, but it really does attract those high ticket
Yeah.
opportunities as a thought leader brand.
So first I'm going to say this. I really believe that LinkedIn is my money tree, and those
Mhm.
pitches are weeds. If they're not going to stop, no matter what's on your profile, they're not going to stop. You need to ignore them. You need to like not like don't let your money tree die because of the weeds. Like pull the weeds, get rid of them, delete them, and just focus on the opportunities. Okay, I don't know that there's anything we can do to stop that. I wish there was. I mean, listen, I report them. I do those. You could do that kind of stuff, right? Um, but to me, if I had to pick one thing, and then we can drill deeper into things. If I had to pick one thing, I would say look at pick one piece of your profile, your headline or your about section, and see if you can like kind of copy and paste that into 100 or 1,000 other people's LinkedIn profiles. If you can, then you're invisible. Right? If you say, I'm a financial planner and I've got this many years of expertise and I help people make more money and I help you retire, and like everybody's saying that. What can you say that's different than everyone else? You could say, I'm a financial planner that helps women over 50 create enough wealth to retire at 60. You could say, I'm a real estate agent that focuses on the energy of your house. And we're going to come at this not just from I have the marketing strategy, but we're also going to bring in a feng shui expert and we're going to write Reiki symbols on your garage walls or whatever, right? Like be you, let your freak flag fly, be different than everyone else because you're going to attract the exact right people. But if you can copy and paste what you've got in your profile into everybody else's, which is what most people feel like they need to do, then you're just going to be lost in that sea of you know invisibility.
Yeah, so the profile really, in my experience and what I know about LinkedIn, that is the one piece of the whole puzzle that makes or breaks your experience there. And like I don't know how important is the profile versus what you're posting in your opinion?
I think the profile It is really important. I think it's more
It's the
important than what
gate.
you're posting. And I
Yeah.
think too, like, so many people look at LinkedIn as like an online resume, and a resume is all about who you used to be. Your LinkedIn profile should be positioning you for who you're becoming. You should be like dressed for the job you want kind of thing, right? Who are the people you want to have these conversations with? Don't, you know, I mean, if you earned all these letters after your name, I absolutely want you to shine a light on that. Like, give me all the credibility. But most people don't care about the letters, right? Nobody's searching for a CEO on LinkedIn. Nobody's searching, they're searching for something specific. So be more specific. Um, and I think that's what makes the difference. And, you know, I like say you are an accountant by day and a Reiki master by night, and you want to have all that in your profile. I think what you're looking for is where the intersection happens, right? Like you need to be really clear. If your LinkedIn profile is all over the place, nobody's going to know what to do with you, right? You need to have like when they look at my profile, this is what I want them to do next. And then everything in your profile needs to feed that goal, right? Like for example, the featured section, which is such a powerful section in your profile. So many people I see have 10 or 5, 5 or 10 or tons of things in that featured section. Who is reading all of that? Nobody's watching all those YouTube videos. Nobody's doing all that. Put 2 or 3 things at most in that section and have that feature whatever's at that moment in time most important to you. Right? If you want to drive people to your podcast, then have your most recent podcast episode in there. If you want to drive calls, have have your link to your call in there. If you want to drive subscriptions to your newsletter, put that in there. But don't, and you could put 2 or 3 things, but I absolutely would not put more than 3. And I teach this stuff, so I mess with it a lot. So, and you can change it, right? You can change it. So you might look and say, "Well, Karen, I'm looking at yours right now, and there's 4." I don't think there is, but there might be sometimes, right? Like there's no LinkedIn police, right? Test to see what works for you, but understand that your goal is to have people take whatever the next step is you want them to take. So make sure everything in your profile is driving them to that, and make sure, for the love of God, that you are doing that you're having call to actions in there. Like you're telling people what to do next, you know, um, be really clear and don't say, well, it's in this section. I don't need it in the next section again. Like all over LinkedIn is contact information, right? But at the bottom of my about section, I have, and here's my email, here's my at Karen Yankovich handle, and here's my phone number. Like I have at the bottom, it's all over my profile. There's other places you can find it, but I want to make it really easy for people to take that next step.
Yeah, brilliant. And you actually said something really important a little bit ago, and I want to bring it back to you. You said people are searching for, and in my experience, that is the beauty of LinkedIn. It is a search engine. People go there and search for keywords. And that to me is one of the most important reasons to get
Yep.
your profile really dialed in and think about what is somebody's searching for what I do are the words
Hmm.
in my profile that
Yep.
actually will help them find me.
Yes, yes. And are they the ones you want to be found for? Right? Like for example, if you're a real estate agent and you don't put in the geographic area that you serve, no one's ever going to find you. Right?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to put the geographic area in because that's not important to me. So you have to think about like what's important to you. It's also not like it's different than your keywords on your website. Like on your website, let's say you sell, calcium supplements, right? On your website, you're going to want to put calcium supplements, but nobody's coming to LinkedIn to search for calcium supplements. They might be searching for a calcium supplement distributor, right? So you need to think about it in terms of what people are searching for on LinkedIn. And this is also where the deeper you go into your niche, the more you're going to be found, right? Because, for example, and by the way, this doesn't work for me because I teach LinkedIn and everybody that teaches LinkedIn knows how to do this, right? So you that's listening, you're going to have a leg up over your competitors. If you are a money coach for women, right? You can put in there that you're a financial planner and all that stuff, but somebody's looking for a money coach for women to speak at their conference, right? Your competitors don't know to use those words on LinkedIn, so they're not going to come up, right? And I would go into LinkedIn and search for the kinds of things that you want to come up for and see who does come up, and do a little reconnaissance, competitive reconnaissance, and see how they're positioning themselves. I'm not suggesting you copy things, but maybe there's words you didn't even think of using, right? That they're using in their profile, right? So This is how, like, LinkedIn done properly can be magnetic. And that is what we all want, right? We don't want to be like those people, spamming 100 people a day trying to get one phone call. We want people calling us. And that's how you start doing it. You start getting strategic about things like keywords.
Yeah, the contrast between attraction and promotion comes up for me as you say that. And
Yes.
I want to come back to one more piece that you just, I mean, because there's so many brilliant nuggets that you're dropping here. But in my experience, we've moved into an era of specificity.
Yes.
Like, and I think a lot of people have fear about being too specific and losing traction or becoming invisible because your niche is too narrow. Well, I've tested a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and I know you're really in the know here. I'm curious, how specific do we need to be on LinkedIn with our profile to really be able to be seen and found?
I don't think you could be more too specific. I think that the more specific you are, the better off you're going to be. And here's the thing: most people are afraid. Like, let's use my real estate agent with the feng shui and Reiki for an example, right? I don't know about where you live, but where I live, I personally probably know 10 real estate agents, within a 10-mile radius. If somebody comes to me and says, Karen, I need a realtor. Who do you recommend? I don't know who to recommend. Like, I know 10 of them. But if I know that person just came from her meditation retreat, I'm going to say, oh, you need to talk to Melanie. Melanie's your exact right person. You're helping people send you people. Now, use me as an example. I have a podcast called Good Girls Get Rich. My programs are called the She's Linked Up suite of programs, and half of my private clients are men. It doesn't mean you can't serve people outside of your niche. It just means that you're from a marketing perspective, you're speaking to a very specific audience. It doesn't mean our Reiki lady realtor isn't going to get clients that are not that. Like, so they were so worried about putting people off with these things that what we don't realize is that actually the opposite is happening, right? We're just like everybody else. So nobody's sending us anybody because there's just too much competition around us. So, even thinking about my early marketing days, online marketing days, I was doing social media. And if somebody needed a social media speaker for an event, my name would get thrown out there with 1,000 other names. Now, if somebody's looking for a LinkedIn speaker for an event, 100 people say, call Karen, right? Instead of me being in a sea of 1,000, I am now getting 100 people saying, call me, right? So the more specific, you can't get too specific. You can't. The more specific you are, the more money you're going to make. You know, I can just keep going on and on, but like a doctor makes $1, a surgeon makes $10, a heart surgeon makes $100, a left ventricle specialist makes $1,000. Be a left ventricle specialist.
Yeah, that's a great example. I love it. I want to bring PR into this because I know
Mm-hmm.
that's a part of your path to creating wealth around visibility.
Yep.
And I also think a lot of people are intimidated by PR. They don't really know, can they afford it? Does it work for them? Are they the right kind of business to invest in PR? Or is it just for celebrities and influencers? What are your thoughts on PR and how it fits into building our presence on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So again, I'm looking for you to stand out, right? And also, I feel like at this moment in time, and maybe it's just always like this, but I know at this moment in time, there's a lot of people who are looking at their next chapter and they want it to look a little bit different than their previous chapter. Right. So, and using the example I said earlier, where I was moving into online marketing of LinkedIn and I didn't have any LinkedIn connections, right? Like, I didn't have enough LinkedIn connections. The PR gives you that credibility that you might not yet have if you're moving in a new direction, right? You've got years of experience in what you did, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing next, right? But I'm sure everybody listening has seen somebody in their industry that does not know anywhere near as much as they know, but they're the ones sitting being interviewed, on TV or, by big podcast names, right? It's because they went after it. They created this. It's not even something that you have to pay for at this moment in time. Listen, when the time comes that you can afford $10,000 a month for a PR firm, you should absolutely do that. Like, I am not saying never pay for PR, but you don't need to. There are so many resources right now that will allow you to get podcast interviews. You can join services like Podmatch, or, like, there's all kinds of things like that. There's things that you can do to get interviews if I met somebody, on the street and I said, yeah, I teach LinkedIn and PR, I don't have any credibility. But if you met that same person on the street and you said, oh, you need to call Karen, if you're for LinkedIn and PR, now all of a sudden I get to borrow your credibility, right? That's what PR does for you. And that's why I put this together. And when we're creating our LinkedIn strategy, of course, we want to connect with some people that might potentially be our clients, but that's actually not my number one focus. The other two focuses, which probably are tied, one is who else has an audience of people like mine that might be able to introduce me to their audience, where we can maybe do some kind of a collaboration, or I can speak in front of their Facebook group. And then the third is who are the journalists that talk about what I do. And you want to build relationships with them. You want them to, I remember flying home from Texas one time after speaking at an event going, why don't I do this more in New Jersey? Like I need to build a tighter network of people in New Jersey. So I started building relationships I wanted anytime anybody in any of the New Jersey business magazines were talking about LinkedIn, I wanted them to quote me. Like I wanted them to quote me. And I actually got to the publisher of a New Jersey business magazine a couple years ago. Our governor was interviewing Gary Vaynerchuk about entrepreneurism in New Jersey. And I literally sent the link to the publisher of the number one business magazine in New Jersey. And I said, we need to get in on this. And he said, you're right. Come in next week. Right. Like, and that gives you visibility and credibility. And that credibility is how back to the higher ticket opportunities, right? You can be a yoga teacher and be looking for the $15 class people, which you should be doing. Or you could also, if you're interested, I have this like VIP service where we'll spend a half a day together on a Saturday and we'll work privately a couple weeks in a row on Zoom. And that is a $5,000 thing. And I'm going to give you like really specific information. That's how you sell those kinds of things when you're interviewed in newspapers and magazines as the yoga expert of your community. Right. And I'm not asking you to do something different, right? You're still a yoga teacher. I just want you to have in your back pocket that higher ticket opportunity. And then you get the credibility to land those opportunities and have people sign contracts for them from this PR, right? So that's kind of how it all works together. And it's also how it makes it magnetic, right? It's also how people reach out to you instead of you constantly out there schlepping for your next client.
Yeah, I always think of it as like you can create your own buzz by really being strategic and intentional about where you're
Yeah.
sharing your message.
Yes.
And sounds like LinkedIn, for you has been that. And I think for me to some degree, but podcast has definitely been
Yeah.
my gold mine,
Right.
because, people forget because they have become so popular. These are PR and media platforms.
Yes. Yes.
Right? They're more accessible than
Yes.
ever, but it's still PR that's being generated for you. And by the way, side note, it blows my mind how many people don't know how to leverage the PR that's being generated for them.
Yes.
But that's a
Yes.
that's a whole nother
But think
conversation.
about this, Melanie. I'll put this out to everybody that's listening. If it's been in your mind that you like, I have a podcast and I get pitched every single friggin' day, and I'm sure you do too, Melanie. And I
Hundreds.
ignore most of them because most of them are just not appropriate. But if you're listening to this interview and you go on over to LinkedIn and you connect with me and you connect with Melanie and you share this episode and you tag us both and you say, I loved when you talked about this, the point of view that I was waiting to hear you talk about and you never got to was this. I'm up for that conversation, right? I'll be like, oh, that sounds like a great conversation for my show. Let's do it, right? Like you have a much better shot of getting an interview on my show if you engage with me than if you just cold pitch me. And
Mhm.
it is as easy as that. It is as easy as that. It doesn't mean it's going to work every time, right? And it feels like it's more work, right? Because I'm asking you to kind of listen to some shows but your success rate is going to be so much higher that it's actually less work.
Yeah, my philosophy, and I really feel, we're not here to talk about podcasts today, but I do think just to bring this home, the podcast guesting marketplace has radically shifted. People like you and I, we're blind to the pitches that we're kind of turned off by them now. But like
Yep.
you just said, like really like being intentional and doing a couple extra steps is going to cut through the noise. Get on more high profile shows,
Yep.
invest a little bit of time and energy to do that, not spray and pray everywhere and try to get
Right.
on hundreds of shows. You don't need to be on hundreds of shows. So,
Right.
all right,
But
I'm
this
off
is
my
part of,
podcast
but
platform.
I'm going to I'm going to say there one more second. This is how you profit from LinkedIn though, right? You could
Yes.
be paying a podcast. and I'm not nothing against podcast agencies, right? But you could be paying a podcast agency, or you could be paying a VA to say, hey, give me 10 shows you think I'd be great on. Give me the LinkedIn profile for the hosts of those 10 shows. And, like, you don't have to do all the work. Like, you can have other people help you with this. When it comes to the actual LinkedIn piece, yes, it has to be you. Like, nobody logs into my LinkedIn but me. So if I'm having a conversation with you on LinkedIn, it's me. But you can still leverage that, even though it feels like more work. And then just take that same example across TV studios and, magazines. And, it works. It's that simple. I have a client that did this in real estate, and he just commented on a post that was on NBCnews.com. And, like, she was like, thanks for the comment, and then 2 days later messaged him and said, I'm writing another article. Can I ask you a couple questions? And, like, all of a sudden he was featured on NBC News. None of his competitors could say that. Right. It could be that simple.
Yeah, and I want to weave one piece back through on all of this and I'm curious your take on this. So we've talked a lot about LinkedIn. We're talking about how to leverage it for media and PR and to attract more opportunities and even clients. How much of this is your ability to position your authority in your LinkedIn profile versus just I do, like you're one of many, right? Like how much
Right.
of that plays into our ability to really stand out on LinkedIn?
I think it's really important. I think it's really important. But I think it's different than most people are thinking, because, yes, I said how important your profile is. But here's the thing. A beautiful flyer nailed to a tree in the middle of the forest that nobody sees does you no good, right? So yes, you should have a great profile. The Because that gives you the authority to have these kinds of conversations, but it's the having the conversations that makes the difference, right? And it isn't even the posting. It isn't even the posting. Like, of course, I want you to post on LinkedIn, but the beautiful part about a great LinkedIn strategy is you only have to post a couple times a week. You don't have to post every day, just never mind 3 times a day. Like, 3 times a week is really okay. Most important, jump into other conversations, because that's where you're
Yes.
positioning your authority. See what conversations are happening in your industry and jump in. Your profile will do the heavy lifting with your credibility, right? If somebody's like, who's this person that has this opinion? They're going to check on your profile, and you've done the job of proving yourself worthy of the conversation. Um, but that's how you really leverage this platform, not even the content. Yes, I want more eyes on my content, but I don't care that much about it. I care more about the conversations that I'm having.
Mm. I'm glad you brought that in because I truly think for me, when I'm on LinkedIn, the people that are commenting on my posts, they're the ones that get my attention first. They're the
Yes.
ones that open up new possibilities. And I've literally made new connections, hired people. I've brought people onto my show simply because they took the lead and started engaging. And I think that's a
Yes.
missed art form in a lot of the social platforms.
I agree. I've actually had, and this could be anybody, it's not just because it's me, it could be anybody. I jumped into a conversation one day on a Friday morning, and, I made it really easy for people to find me. So somebody saw that conversation and went to my profile and booked a call with me for that same day. Did not know who I was Friday morning. And by Friday afternoon, invested in a a 5 figure, a solid 5 figure contract with me. Did not know who I was Friday morning, and that came from me engaging in somebody else's conversation.
Mhm.
They, liked what I had to say. They went to my profile. I had that credibility, made it easy for them to book a call. I remember thinking, Friday afternoon, who booked? How did I let this happen? Right? How did I let this call get on my calendar? But she was amazing. So it can happen for you that way too. It's the conversations you're having that are the most important piece of this whole conversation.
It's all about connection through conversation, friends. I've not always been good at this, but it's certainly back on my radar, and it's been really beautiful to see what emerges when you're intentional about connecting with people. And you don't have to connect with everybody, but maybe even just pick, 3 to 5 people that you're going to be intentional about connecting with at a time, and notice what starts to open up for you. Yeah,
Right.
you can make it manageable. Well, I am sure our amplifiers are starting to wonder, okay, how can I really tap into LinkedIn? Where would be the first good place for them to start? Do you have a resource or something we could share with the
Well,
community?
first of all, they should connect with me on LinkedIn and let
Absolutely.
me know that you heard this show. In fact, share the show and tag us both. That way, we can all get that visibility that we're talking about here in this beautiful positive way, not the spammy way. Um, but yeah, because I know it is a little bit overwhelming to get started, I've created a resource. It's called LinkedIn for PR. Like, how do you use LinkedIn to get this PR? If you go to linkedinforpr.com, which hopefully the link works, it's a forwarding link that sometimes we have a problem with, but I think Melanie will make sure that it works in the show notes or something. Or if you can't get it, message me on LinkedIn and I'll make sure you get it. But LinkedIn for PR, it's a checklist and it's exhaustive, but I don't want you to read it all. I want you to pick a couple things out of it. If you just pick a couple things out of it, it's like a how to get started. Okay, once you get started doing this, and how do you follow up? Like how would you, if you have an opportunity like this where Melanie and I are talking, like Melanie said earlier, so many people don't leverage the PR opportunity of these things. The third piece of this checklist is, and then how do you leverage these opportunities? So if you take one or two little things out of it, you're going to be way ahead of most of the people in your industry.
Brilliant. And so I'm going to issue a little bit of a next level challenge for you as you're listening in. I want you to go grab the resource and I want you to commit to finding those 2 to 3 things. Tag Karen and I, let us know what you're working on in LinkedIn. Because this is not about more information, my friend. This is about getting into action with what's going to move the needle. So let us know what you're going to do with it. All right, Karen, this has been fantastic. I just
It's
want to
been
wrap
fun.
up with one really bold question because we talked a
Okay,
little bit about
I'm
bold
ready.
today. And, I think we as business owners are oftentimes faced with making big, bold decisions that are really terrifying. And yet, once we make them, sometimes we're like, why did I wait so long? What would you say is one of those bold decisions that you made that really paid off?
Oh, well, I mean, investing in myself is always the number one thing, right? Investing in a coach or investing in support or learning, knowing what I need to learn. But we actually just made a huge bold decision that I'm still nervous about. But I talk the talk a lot. I want to help more. I want there to be more wealthy women in the world. I want to help more women create these kinds of systems. So we just literally turned our programs completely on their head. Like literally, we just did this. Where our programs previously were $11,000 to get into the programs, that we were doing a lot with them and we were helping them and we were writing profiles and doing all this stuff. We just flipped it on its head and created a lower ticket opportunity. You can still work with me privately if you want that extra help. But I felt like in the world we're living in right now, I wanted more women to have access to this information. So I just took the bold move of pulling the rug out and flipping it on its head and making it ridiculously affordable. Um, it serves my lifestyle in a lot of ways too, because all of that deep dive stuff, I had a limit on how many people I could serve because I had so many calls on my calendar all the time and everything. And I think the world is changing. So that was the biggest, boldest decision maybe we ever made. And we're living it right now. So come back to me in a couple of weeks and I'll let you know how I'm feeling about
Okay, I'll circle back and ask you.
it.
But I think I appreciate you sharing that. I think a lot of people are making some new decisions about how we show up. I know we are. We've retooled a
Yep.
lot of our offers because we're recognizing the shift. And I don't want to be inaccessible, but I do want to really hold the right container for the right people. And that's a fine
Yes.
dance sometimes.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And to tie the two things together, I said earlier, like I keep the doors open while we're doing this bringing in high ticket consulting clients because I know how to do that. But I hired somebody to help me create this other opportunity because I don't know the first thing about how to do that. Right. So there's a couple bold decisions all the way around, but you have to count on yourself. Right. And that's really, if I could leave you guys with anything, what we're talking about here is taking control of your own destiny.
Yeah.
And I think that more than ever in this world, we need to take control of our own destiny.
Sovereign was my word this year. I think it's going to be a big word for a lot of people as we go into the new
Yeah.
year as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much. And amplifiers, make sure you go download that resource. I want to hear what 2 to 3 things you're going to take off that list and put into action. So, as Karen said, share the episode, tag us on LinkedIn, make sure you connect with us both there too. Karen, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a great conversation.
Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.